to begin, I would like each of us to breathe in deep and let it go. Now, just imagine trying to do that when your lungs are filled with fluid. I have been there, and it is a struggle that I don't wish on absolutely anyone. But at the same time, that struggle taught me to be grateful for every breath that I take and never take it for granted. So every morning when I wake up and I breathe in deep, I'm filled with gratitude for that breath. And that is how I start each day. In addition, I write a gratitude list that gives me a focus of all the blessings that I have already starting that day. This then helps me to take on the world. No matter what happens, I'm filled with a gratitude that is unbreakable and unshakable. And it also helps me to realize how short life is, which in turn makes me want to make that day that I'm living the best that it possibly can be. So even if I'm faced with struggles, I always take a moment to look around, and I'm grateful for the flowers in a field or the ocean waves or my mom's smile and words of wisdom, just the little things. It's not about the accomplishments, which I do have a few. I have awards lining both my walls. I don't know if you can see it. I have books written, but none of that matters to me as much as the experience that goes along with the things that I've accomplished. My books wouldn't mean anything to, well, they would mean something to me, but it means so much more to me that I can share them with a new generation, and I can see the smiles on children's faces every time I turn to the page when Cat Girl reveals that she's a superhero and has a flying wheelchair. So, what I'm trying to say is that life is not made up of our accomplishments. Life is made up of the small parts of our lives that make us who we are and the breaths that we take to get us through each day. So that is my reason for gratitude. And now I'm wondering what it is that all of you are grateful for. So if you could write it in the chat. In the meantime, I want to tell you a little bit more about why I've come to this realization. Maria, you're grateful for family. I'm grateful for family. My family is large and very complicated, but I'm grateful for each person because they teach me a new lesson every single day. Let's see. Other people are saying Oche is thankful for good health. I'm right there with you, Oche, because as I mentioned, I have been in situations where I have not had good health. So as I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, it's very important to me to remind myself to take that breath every morning and really be grateful for it, because I've been in situations where that breath was not easy to take. And I see a lot of us just saying the same things about family. Family is so important because in order to make it through the hardships, which I've faced, which I'm sure all of you have faced, you have to have a good support system. And that doesn't necessarily have to be your immediate family. If it is, then you're very fortunate. But it can also be a community that you build for yourself. I have been very fortunate and grateful for the other advocates that I've met throughout my journey who share a common life experience with me and who understand me in a way that maybe certain family members that I have may not, because they haven't lived the struggles that I've faced as a person with a disability. So it's important to surround yourself with loving people, but also those that understand you and really respect your journey, and those that you can learn from along the way. So I definitely am very grateful for that as well. So that's really all that I wanted to speak on. I'm glad to know that you all have such yes. Someone else just wrote that they're grateful for the good and bad that they are. And I could not agree more to that as well, because any mistakes that I've made throughout my life, and I made quite a few in my teen years and my early 20s, led me to the person that I am today. If it wasn't for, the fact that I was a little bit of a party animal in my early 20s, I probably wouldn't have been on dialysis so early in life. So, any mistakes that I've made have led me to good moments as well. Because being on dialysis, as you all know, was where I met someone who encouraged me to become an advocate. And so that was life changing for me. So again, I agree with everything that's being written in the chat. And I just want to thank all of you for having me today.
The purpose of Kat's speech was for her to practice using vocal variety and body language to enhance her speech. Now, where did Kat excel? She excelled in her interactivity. I loved it how she started asking us, can we take a breath? And then to picture us doing that with fluid in our lungs. That is a picture that is going to live in my memory for a while. She also, what she did well, she stressed the word world and she looked at the camera. That was a really good way of using her body to show us how that meant to her, how every breath just meant the world to her. She had great use of vocal variety. She used her hands. Her eye contact was amazing. And I love how she defined community and what it meant to her. She also used clarity in her voice and eye contact, gestures, total audience awareness, especially when she asked us to put stuff into the chat and she read those. Her comfort level was exemplary and it was a very interesting speech. Now, where will I ask Kat to maybe work on a little bit would be to take a few more pauses. I would like to see a demonstration in this speech where she shows us how she felt while she was breathing or the lack of breathing when she has fluid in her lungs. Maybe that will take that speech to the next level. So you may want to mimic that feeling when you deliver this speech again. And lastly, if you want to challenge yourself in this speech, I would just write like 3 points and then go 1, discuss that point, 2, discuss that point, and number 3. And that kind of brings us closer to exactly what you want to tell us in that speech. And also maybe going a little playing with the camera, because it's a little difficult for us to imagine or to see a lot of the movements, but when you get closer or farther from the camera, that is showing us that you're stressing a point. But other than that, I love this speech. I think that she's a natural. She just goes on, and we love to hear her speak a little bit more. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.